Hey guys, tonight we're taking a slightly different turn, one that might feel a little more human, but no less mysterious than our usual cosmic adventures. We're going to dim the lights and quietly slip into the hushed, intricate world of Joseon Korea, a kingdom that existed for over 500 years, from the late 14th to the late 19th century. Tonight, our focus isn't on the kings or the scholars, but on a unique and often misunderstood group of men who lived their entire lives in the shadows of the royal court, the Palace Eunuchs. And trust me, their story is far more disturbing and perhaps more profound than you might imagine from a casual glance. You might think you know what sacrifice means, but these men lived a life defined by it. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you settle in, maybe share where you're listening from tonight and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine a life where your destiny is sealed not by birth, but by a single brutal act that forever alters your physical form. This is the harrowing reality that shaped the very existence of Joseon Palace Eunuchs, known as Naisi or Naeguan. Their service to the king began not with a grand ceremony, but with a horrifying, irreversible physical transformation castration. This wasn't some ancient, barbaric ritual for its own sake. It was a deeply ingrained societal and practical requirement for men who would serve within the inner sanctums of the royal palace, especially among the king's wives, concubines, and the myriad of female attendants. The thinking was chillingly pragmatic. Only men incapable of siring children could be trusted to move freely among the royal women without fear of illicit liaisons that could corrupt the royal bloodline or create dangerous succession disputes. It's a rather extreme form of background check, isn't it? One that literally redefines your very being. This isn't a story for the faint of heart, but it's crucial to understand the profound impact of this procedure. For many, it was performed in childhood, often due to poverty, illness, or desperate circumstances within their families. Parents might offer their sons for castration, knowing that a life as a eunuch, while physically harrowing, offered a guaranteed livelihood, access to the palace, and potentially a path out of abject poverty. It was a bleak choice, a desperate gamble for survival and security in a rigid hierarchical society. Imagine a parent making such an unfathomable decision for their child, weighing the physical cost against the promise of a meal and a roof. It truly puts into perspective the desperation of the times. The procedure itself, performed without modern anesthetics or sterile conditions, was often perilous. Infection was rampant and many boys would not survive the ordeal. Those who did endured lifelong physical changes, not just the obvious ones, but also hormonal imbalances that affected their physical development, voice, and even emotional states. They would often retain a higher pitched voice and lack typical male secondary sexual characteristics. This physical distinction wasn't just a mark, it was a constant, undeniable reminder of their unique and sacrificed status within Joseon society. It's like having a permanent, internal siren wailing a quiet song of what you are and what you are not. The term Nasi wasn't just a job title, it encompassed a broad hierarchy of palace servants who were all eunuchs. They were more than just guards or attendants. They were an integral part of the functioning of the royal court, intimately woven into the fabric of daily palace life, from managing royal finances and provisioning to delivering messages and overseeing palace security. Their roles were diverse and essential. They were the silent cogs in the magnificent, intricate machinery of the Joseon dynasty, operating with an efficiency that was often overlooked by history. while the primary reason for their castration was to ensure the purity of the royal line. Their unique physical status also placed them in a position of immense trust. They could enter the inner quarters of the palace where no other adult male, apart from the king and his direct male descendants, was permitted. This granted them unparalleled access to the royal family, particularly the queen and concubines, and allowed them to become privy to the most intimate and sensitive palace affairs. This access was a double-edged sword. It granted them power and influence, but also exposed them to the dangerous currents of court intrigue. You're walking a tightrope, holding the king's secrets in one hand and your own precarious existence in the other. Historians still widely debate the exact origins and prevalence of castration as a practice for palace servants across East Asian dynasties. While some theories point to early Chinese influence, the Joseon system developed its own unique characteristics. What is clear is that by the Joseon period, it was a deeply institutionalized practice, with eunuchs forming a distinct and powerful social class within the court. This wasn't just a few individuals. It was a significant segment of the palace bureaucracy, a testament to its perceived necessity and utility. The very nature of their role meant that eunuchs were often the first to witness royal births, deaths, and intimate family disputes. They saw the true, unvarnished lives of the king and queen, beyond the formal pomp and ceremony. This proximity to power, coupled with their unique inability to create their own legitimate lineage, often fostered a fierce loyalty to the royal house. For many eunuchs, the palace was their only family, their only true home, and the king was their ultimate kyrios, their protector and provider. This intense, almost familial bond with the monarch gave them a unique stake in the stability and success of the dynasty. It's like being a permanent, silent member of the royal family, observing everything but participating only when called upon. Yet, this life, chosen or imposed, was fraught with emotional complexities. Imagine the psychological toll of such a profound physical sacrifice, of being perpetually othered by society. While they gained status and security, they lost the ability to fulfill what was considered a fundamental male role in Joseon society, fathering children. This profound absence was a silent, personal tragedy for many, a void that no amount of palace privilege could truly fill. Scholars continue to debate the emotional lives of eunuchs, trying to understand how they navigated this unique existence. Furthermore, the public perception of eunuchs was often conflicted. While they served vital functions and could accumulate considerable wealth, they were also sometimes viewed with suspicion or disdain due to their altered physical state and their perceived proximity to female power. They were often the targets of popular jokes or derogatory remarks, reflecting a societal unease with their ambiguous gender roles. It's a bitter pill to swallow immense power within the palace walls, but a shadow of contempt cast upon you by the world outside. The creation of a eunuch, known as goja in Korean, was a meticulously recorded process, particularly for those destined for palace service. The procedure itself, often performed by a specialized medical practitioner, involved the complete removal of the testicles and penis. The wound would then be bandaged and the individual carefully monitored, with survival being far from guaranteed. This raw, brutal reality stands in stark contrast to the elegant, refined image of the Joseon court that often comes to mind. It's a chilling reminder of the length to which a society would go to maintain its deeply entrenched hierarchies and values. So, as your thoughts drift and your eyelids grow heavy, consider the profound sacrifice at the heart of the Joseon eunuch's life. Their existence was a stark testament to a world where power, purity, and dynastic stability were paramount, even at the cost of individual wholeness. They were the silent guardians of the royal secrets, living lives forever defined by an act that unmade them, only to remake them into indispensable pillars of the Joseon court. let's gently re-enter the hushed, intricate world of Joseon Korea, where our focus remains on the Palace Eunuchs, the Naisi. If Chapter 1 set the stage with their profound physical transformation, tonight we're going to delve into their daily reality, how they became the palace guardians, keepers of secrets. Their lives were a silent ballet performed in the gilded cages of power, where every whisper could be a revelation and every shadow could hide a truth. Imagine yourself, now a seasoned eunuch, moving through the labyrinthine corridors of the Joseon Palace. Your steps are soft, almost noiseless, your gaze alert yet discreet. Unlike the outer court officials, the scholars and ministers who debated grand policies, your domain is the inner sanctum, the private residences of the king, the queen, the numerous concubines, and the young princes and princesses. Here, in these exquisitely decorated but intensely private spaces, you are a constant, indispensable presence. No other adult male, besides the king himself and his direct male heirs, could enter these intimate quarters. This unique access positioned you as the ultimate witness, the silent observer of royal life, from its most mundane moments to its most profound crises. Your duties were incredibly diverse, ranging from the seemingly trivial to the critically important. You might be the one arranging the king's morning robes, serving his meals, or preparing the queen's tea. You could be overseeing the daily provisions for the royal kitchens, ensuring the finest silks for the royal wardrobe, or managing the vast stores of treasure hidden deep within the palace vaults. Think of yourself as a highly specialized, impeccably trained personal assistant, butler, and security detail, all rolled into one. Your efficiency and discretion were paramount. A single misstep, a forgotten detail, or a moment of indiscretion could have severe consequences, not just for you, but potentially for the delicate balance of power within the court. One of the most sensitive aspects of your role was guarding the royal women. The purity of the royal bloodline was paramount in Joseon society, and any hint of impropriety could spark a catastrophic succession crisis. Your unique physical status, the very sacrifice that defined your existence, was seen as the ultimate guarantee against such threats. You were the trusted bridge between the male and female worlds of the palace, capable of delivering messages, facilitating communication, and ensuring privacy without raising suspicions of illicit liaisons. This made you an indispensable figure in the lives of the queen and the concubines, who relied on you for everything from daily comforts to navigating the treacherous waters of court politics. It's like being the only secure data messenger in a high-stakes espionage thriller. This constant proximity to the royal family meant you were privy to an astonishing array of secrets. You would overhear whispered conversations between the king and his advisors late into the night. You would witness the quiet rivalries between the queen and the concubines, the emotional outbursts of a frustrated monarch, or the anxieties of a queen struggling to produce a male heir. You saw the human side of royalty, stripped bare of its formal facade. This accumulation of knowledge, of intimate details about those at the pinnacle of power, was a significant, albeit informal, source of your influence. You held information that could alter destinies, shape alliances, or bring down rivals, all without ever uttering a word in public. The Naisi Bureau. Naisibu was the official government office that managed the eunuchs, a testament to their institutional importance within the Joseon bureaucracy. This wasn't just a collection of individuals. It was a highly organized system with strict hierarchies, ranks, and specialized departments, from managing royal finances, Nechimgu, to overseeing palace kitchens, Sengwabang, and even caring for royal horses, Segyumbang. The Naisi Bureau touched every aspect of palace life. This institutional structure provided a framework for their lives, offering a sense of belonging and purpose within the vast machinery of the court. It's like being part of an elite, secretive government agency with your own chain of command and highly specialized units. A fascinating, if often overlooked, detail about their role as guardians of secrets involves the subtle art of observation and reporting. While a eunuch might not directly engage in political debate, their keen observations of moods, interactions, and subtle shifts in power dynamics within the inner palace could be invaluable to a shrewd king or ambitious faction. They were the eyes and ears of the inner court, and their whispered reports, though informal, could carry immense weight. Historians still debate the extent to which eunuchs actively shape political events through their unique access to information versus merely facilitating communication, but their potential for influence was undeniable. Beyond their practical duties, eunuchs also played a significant psychological role for the royal family. For a king, surrounded by sycophants and power-hungry officials, a trusted eunuch could be a rare confidant, someone with whom he could speak freely, knowing his words would not be used against him in the outer court. For queens and concubines, isolated and often vulnerable within the palace, eunuchs provided companionship, support, and a vital link to the outside world. This emotional connection, built on shared secrets and mutual dependence, formed an unspoken bond that often transcended their official roles. Imagine having a therapist who also manages your schedule and knows where all the hidden passages are. The life of a eunuch was also one of perpetual vigilance. The palace was a place of constant intrigue, where factions vied for power and rivals sought to undermine one another. A eunuch, by virtue of his intimate access, was often caught in the cross-currents of these power struggles. Loyalty was paramount, but navigating complex loyalties could be a deadly game. A misstep, aligning with the wrong faction, or inadvertently revealing a secret could lead to swift and brutal punishment, including exile, torture, or even execution. It's like living in a grand, beautiful mansion that's also a constant minefield. This ever-present danger further cemented their role as silent guardians. To survive, you learned to be discreet, to observe without judgment, and to speak only when absolutely necessary. You became an expert in reading facial expressions, interpreting silences, and understanding the unspoken language of power. Your survival depended on your ability to be invaluable, yet unobtrusive, powerful, yet submissive. It's a paradox of existence, where your strength lies in your perceived weakness, and your influence stems from your silence. The Joseon dynasty relied heavily on this unique institution for centuries, a testament to the effectiveness of the eunuchs in maintaining the strict protocols and security of the inner palace. They were a consistent, stable presence, often serving multiple monarchs across their lifetimes, accumulating vast institutional memory. They remembered past scandals, previous intrigues, and the intricate personal histories of the royal family. This historical knowledge made them invaluable custodians of tradition and protocol, further solidifying their indispensable role. So, as you drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, reflect on the silent, watchful lives of the Joseon Palace Eunuchs. They were the unseen anchors of the royal court, walking a tightrope between power and vulnerability. Their days dedicated to guarding the intimate secrets of a dynasty. They were the ultimate keepers of the royal flame, their lives a testament to the profound and often disturbing ways in which power shapes human existence. Let's continue our quiet journey into the hidden world of Joseon Palace Eunuchs, the Nasi. If we've already peeked into their daily lives as guardians of royal secrets, tonight we'll illuminate an even more intriguing aspect: how they manage to wield power in the shadows. Influence and intrigue, often from behind the silken curtains of the inner palace. This wasn't power gained through military might or scholarly debate, but through proximity, trust, and a deep understanding of human nature. Imagine, for a moment, that you are a high ranking eunuch, a sanction, perhaps the head of the Nasi Bureau. You might not wear the elaborate robes of a minister or command armies, but you hold a different kind of authority, one built on access and information. You are constantly beside the king, serving his needs, listening to his private thoughts, witnessing his unguarded moments. You know his moods, his preferences, his vulnerabilities, and his deepest desires. This intimate knowledge is a formidable tool in the intricate game of court politics. It's like being the ultimate insider, possessing the cheat codes to the kingdom's most complex game. This isn't to say eunuchs held direct political power in the same way as the civil or military officials. They couldn't participate in formal court debates or hold ministerial positions. However, their influence was often exercised through their unique position as intermediaries. They were the trusted messengers between the king and his court, and crucially, between the king and the women of the inner palace. A eunuch could subtly emphasize a message, delay its delivery, or even filter information, effectively shaping the flow of communication and, by extension, the king's perceptions and decisions. A whispered word at the right moment, a slight emphasis on a particular detail, could sway royal favor or condemn a rival. It's the original whisper network, but with kingdom-altering stakes. One of their most significant sources of influence stem from their role as confidants. Kings, burdened by the immense responsibilities of rule and surrounded by often scheming officials, frequently found solace and a rare sense of trust in their eunuchs. Unlike ambitious ministers who might seek to gain power for their own factions, eunuchs, due to their unique status, were often perceived as less of a threat to the royal authority. They had no sons to establish a rival lineage, no powerful clans to uplift. Their loyalty was, by necessity, almost entirely directed towards the monarch. This created an emotional bond, a safe space where the king could discuss sensitive matters, express frustrations, and seek counsel without fear of betrayal. Imagine having a personal sounding board for all your kingdom level problems, who also make sure your robes are perfectly pressed. This trust could translate into immense informal power. A eunuch might act as an unofficial advisor, offering insights or relaying opinions from the queen or other women of the palace. They could advocate for certain individuals, promote specific policies, or subtly undermine rivals by feeding information or disinformation to the king. Many historical accounts describe powerful eunuchs who, through their influence over the monarch, were able to secure promotions for their allies, arrange marriages, or even instigate purges against their enemies. The history of Joseon Korea is dotted with instances where eunuchs played pivotal, though often discreet, roles in major court events. Historians still debate just how much agency these eunuchs truly had in shaping significant historical outcomes versus simply reflecting the will of powerful factions. Consider the dynamic with the royal women, queens, and concubines, largely confined to the inner palace and excluded from formal politics, often used eunuchs as their eyes, ears, and voices in the wider court. A high-ranking eunuch could carry messages, cultivate alliances with outer court officials on behalf of the queen, or even orchestrate schemes to undermine rivals within the palace. For these women, a trusted eunuch was an invaluable asset, a vital link to the world of power they could not directly enter. It's a fascinating collaboration two marginalized groups, finding strength in their indirect manipulation of the powerful. The eunuchs' institutional knowledge also contributed to their influence. Many served for decades, witnessing multiple reigns and accumulating vast institutional memory about palace protocol, precedents, and the intricate histories of various noble families. This deep understanding of court dynamics made them invaluable resources for new kings or struggling queens. They knew who held grudges, who could be trusted, and how previous crises had been navigated. This experiential wisdom gave them a quiet authority, making them indispensable guides through the treacherous currents of court life. It's like having a living, breathing palace encyclopedia who also happens to know everyone's dirty laundry. This hidden power was, however, always precarious. While influential, eunuchs were still, ultimately, servants. Their authority was derived from the king's favor, and a change in monarch, a shift in political winds, or a successful challenge from a rival faction could lead to a swift and brutal downfall. Powerful eunuchs often became targets during political purges, accused of corruption or exceeding their authority. Their unique position, while offering opportunities, also made them highly vulnerable. They walked a tightrope, with profound influence on one side and potential ruin on the other. A famous anecdote, though its veracity is debated, speaks to the eunuch's potential for influence. It's said that a particular eunuch, privy to the king's late night musings, would subtly steer conversations towards certain topics or away from others, guiding the king's thoughts and decisions without ever appearing to issue an order. This subtle art of manipulation, of planting ideas and cultivating opinions, was the hallmark of a truly powerful eunuch. It highlights how indirect influence can be far more potent than overt command in the right circumstances. The very lack of a traditional family and male heirs often forced eunuchs to invest their entire lives, their ambitions, and their loyalties into the palace. This singular focus, combined with their unique access, created a powerful dynamic. They were not building a personal dynasty, they were serving the dynasty. This made them, paradoxically, both trusted and feared. Trusted because they had no external family allegiances, feared because their loyalty to the king could be absolute and ruthless. So, as you drift deeper into the quietude of your night, consider the silent, calculating power of the Joseon Palace Eunuchs. They moved through the shadows, listening, observing, and subtly shaping the destiny of a kingdom. Their influence was a testament to the fact that power isn't always found in grand pronouncements or visible authority, but often in the intimate whispers, the quiet trusts, and the hidden currents of intrigue that flow through the heart of any royal court. Let's ease back into the intriguing world of Joseon Palace Eunuchs, the Nisi. If their access and informal influence painted a picture of hidden power, tonight we'll explore a more tangible and sometimes morally ambiguous aspect of their lives beyond the blade: wealth and corruption. Despite their sacrificed bodies and servant status, many eunuchs managed to accumulate surprising fortunes, often through means that stretched or outright broke the rules of the court. Imagine a man who cannot marry or sire legitimate children, yet lives a life of material comfort, even luxury, within the palace. How did this happen? Their unique position, as we've discussed, granted them unparalleled access to the royal family and the inner workings of the court. This proximity was a golden opportunity for astute or unscrupulous eunuchs to engage in various forms of wealth accumulation. Think of it like being an executive assistant to a billionaire. You might not be the one making the billions, but you're in a prime position to benefit from the flow of wealth around you. One of the most common avenues for accumulating wealth was through managing royal finances and resources. Eunuchs were often in charge of provisioning the royal kitchens, overseeing the purchase of luxurious goods for the royal wardrobe, and managing the vast sums of money that flowed through the palace treasury. This gave them ample opportunities for scheming funds, taking kickbacks from suppliers, or engaging in illicit trading. A small percentage here, a slightly inflated price there. And over years, these subtle acts could add up to a considerable fortune. It's like being in charge of all the catering for a major event and accidentally ordering a few extra lavish items for yourself. Another significant source of wealth came from gifts and bribes. Courtiers, ambitious officials, and even members of the royal family often sought to curry favor with powerful eunuchs to gain access to the king or queen, to relay a message, or to secure a promotion. These gifts were often thinly veiled bribes designed to smooth paths and open doors. A eunuch who held the king's ear, or who could subtly influence the queen, was an invaluable asset in the cutthroat world of Joseon court politics, and many were willing to pay handsomely for their services. Imagine having a fast pass to the most exclusive club in town, and everyone wants to pay you to get them in. The buying and selling of official positions was another notorious form of corruption. While eunuchs couldn't hold positions in the regular bureaucracy, their influence could be leveraged to recommend or oppose candidates for various government posts. By accepting payment, a eunuch could subtly advocate for a favored individual, helping them secure a lucrative position. This was a direct form of profiting from their informal power, a dark side to their trusted status. Historians still debate the true scale of this type of corruption, but evidence suggests it was a persistent problem within many historical courts. Beyond direct corruption, eunuchs could also profit through speculation and investment. Their access to inner palace information gave them unique insights into royal policies, land deals, or trade agreements that could affect market prices. A shrewd eunuch might use this privileged information to invest in certain commodities or land, making significant profits from their insider knowledge. While not explicitly illegal in the same way as outright bribery, it was a clear exploitation of their position for personal gain. It's the ultimate form of insider trading, where the stock market is the entire kingdom's economy. The accumulation of such wealth often led to eunuchs living remarkably comfortable lives, sometimes even building grand private residences outside the palace walls, adorned with fine silks, expensive ceramics, and rare antiques. They might employ numerous servants and even establish businesses managed by their adopted family members. This stark contrast between their physically sacrificed state and their material affluence was a peculiar feature of Joseon society, reflecting the complex interplay of power, status, and economic opportunity within the court. However, this wealth often came with significant risks. Powerful and rich eunuchs were frequently targets during political purges. When a new faction rose to power, or a king decided to crack down on corruption, eunuchs, due to their visibility and accumulated riches, often became convenient scapegoats. Their assets could be confiscated, and they themselves might face torture, exile, or execution. This constant threat meant that even the wealthiest eunuchs lived with a degree of precariousness, always aware that their fortunes could turn to ashes overnight. It's like building a magnificent sandcastle, knowing a single tide could wash it all away. A less common, but certainly intriguing detail is the potential for eunuchs to be involved in smuggling or black market activities for the palace. Given their unmonitored access to inner palace goods and their connections with external merchants through provisioning duties, some eunuchs might have facilitated the illicit trade of royal treasures or rare commodities. This form of corruption would have been highly clandestine, leaving little historical trace, but it highlights the diverse ways in which their unique position could be exploited for profit. Scholars often find it difficult to definitively prove these types of activities, relying on circumstantial evidence or later, sometimes biased, historical accounts. The very concept of a eunuch, a person without a traditional family line, accumulating wealth often went against the Confucian ideals of Joseon society, which emphasized public service and modesty. Yet, Their practical indispensability meant they were tolerated, and their wealth, while sometimes scrutinized, was a clear sign of their informal power. It's a fascinating paradox where societal norms were bent to accommodate the realities of court life and the universal human drive for influence and comfort. So, as you slowly drift into dreams, consider the complex reality of wealth within the Joseon Palace Eunuchs. Their lives, defined by profound physical sacrifice, were often paradoxically marked by immense material gain, accumulated through subtle influence, crucial access, and sometimes outright corruption. It's a testament to the enduring human pursuit of power and comfort, even in the most unusual of circumstances, and a stark reminder that secrets and shadows can hide both profound loyalty and immense riches. Let's continue our quiet journey into the fascinating, often contradictory lives of Osean Palace eunuchs. We've explored their deep immersion in palace intrigue and their surprising accumulation of wealth. Tonight, we'll delve into one of the most poignant and distinctly human aspects of their existence: family ties, adoption, and lineage. Despite being physically unable to father children, eunuchs found profound ways to build families and ensure their own forms of legacy. Imagine a man living within the highest echelons of society, yet fundamentally cut off from the primary means of establishing a lineage in Joseon Korea, direct biological fatherhood. In a deeply Confucian society where ancestral worship and the continuation of the family line were paramount, this presented a profound existential challenge for eunuchs. However, they developed an ingenious and widely accepted practice to circumvent this biological limitation: adoption. Many eunuchs would adopt sons, often from their own impoverished relatives, or sometimes even orphans, to create their own family units and ensure someone would perform their ancestral rites after their death. It's like building a bridge across a river you can't personally cross, ensuring your spirit can still reach the other side. This practice of adoption was not just a personal choice, it was deeply rooted in the social fabric of Joseon. For a poor family, offering a son for adoption to a wealthy eunuch could mean a life of comfort and opportunity for the boy that he would otherwise never experience. For the eunuch, it provided emotional companionship, practical support in managing his acquired wealth, and, most crucially, the assurance that his spirit would be cared for in the afterlife. The adopted son would carry out the ancestral rituals, maintaining the family name and providing spiritual continuity. It was a symbiotic relationship, born out of necessity and mutual benefit. The chosen sons were typically boys from humble backgrounds who would be educated, often receiving a better upbringing than they would have in their birth families. They would live in the eunuch's private residence outside the palace, learning to manage his assets and affairs. This allowed eunuchs to build small personal empires, with their adopted sons serving as trusted administrators and future inheritors. These adopted families, while not recognized in the same legal light as traditional biological families for purposes of state office, were fully functional social units, embodying love, loyalty, and ambition. Imagine being able to handpick your successor and heir, ensuring they're perfectly suited to carry on your legacy. This system highlights a fascinating aspect of Joseon society while rigid in many ways. It was also pragmatic enough to create an accepted pathway for eunuchs to fulfill crucial social and spiritual roles. The very existence of eunuch families underscores the profound human need for connection and legacy. Even when traditional avenues are closed off, it's a testament to the flexibility of human culture in adapting to unique circumstances. Historians still debate the specific social implications of adopted sons of eunuchs, particularly how they were viewed by other noble families. A unique, if perhaps unsettling, aspect of these adopted families was that the eunuch's wife, if he had one, also played a crucial role in raising the adopted son. While a eunuch couldn't have biological children, he could still marry. These marriages, often arranged for companionship, social status, and to help manage the household, sometimes involved women who were also from lower social strata or had no other marital prospect. Together, the eunuch and his wife would raise their adopted son, creating a nuclear family unit that, on the surface, resembled other families. But with this fundamental, unspoken difference, it's a marriage of convenience and emotional necessity, where the focus isn't on procreation, but on companionship and legacy. The adopted sons often inherited considerable wealth, becoming influential figures in their own right, managing their eunuch father's estates or businesses. Some even achieved minor official positions through their connections and inherited wealth. This created a peculiar subclass within Joseon society families, whose lineage stemmed not from biological fatherhood, but from the unique intergenerational bond of adoption within the eunuch system. It's like a secret society of families, bound by a shared, unconventional origin story. There's a lesser known fact about some higher ranking eunuchs who, in their later years, would retire from direct palace service and live out their days in their private residences, surrounded by their adopted families and servants. They might spend their time pursuing scholarly interests, engaging in charitable works, or simply enjoying the quiet comforts of their accumulated wealth. This demonstrates that their lives were not solely defined by palace servitude. They could cultivate personal lives and achieve a measure of domestic contentment, fulfilling universal human desires for family and community. This practice of adoption also served as a kind of social safety net for eunuchs. In their old age, when their usefulness in the palace might wane, their adopted sons were there to provide care, support, and ensure their dignified passage into the afterlife. This reciprocal relationship was vital in a society without formal welfare systems, where family was the ultimate security. It's a powerful illustration of how practical needs can drive profound social innovations. The very existence of eunuch families and their adopted lineages adds another layer of complexity to our understanding of Joseon society. It shows that while the dominant Confucian ideology emphasized patrilineal descent, there were pragmatic adaptations and social flexibilities that allowed for alternative forms of family and continuity. It's a reminder that even the most rigid societies can contain hidden pockets of ingenuity and compassion, allowing individuals to navigate their circumstances in unexpected ways. So, as you slowly drift into dreams, consider the profound human need for family and legacy. Even in the most unusual of circumstances, the Joseon Palace Eunuchs, denied biological fatherhood, built their own enduring families through adoption, creating bonds of love and loyalty that transcended physical limitations and ensured their place in the ongoing tapestry of history. It's a testament to the adaptable and resilient nature of the human heart, finding connection even where it seems most impossible. Let's gently re-enter the hushed, intricate world of Joseon Palace Eunuchs, the Nasi. If we've explored their unique family structures, tonight we'll delve even deeper into their relationships with the very top of the hierarchy royal confidants, loyalty and trust. These eunuchs often became far more than mere servants. They evolved into indispensable advisors and emotional anchors for the kings and queens they served. Imagine the king, burdened by the immense weight of governing an entire nation. He's surrounded by ministers vying for power, scholars debating complex philosophies, and generals planning military campaigns. Yet, who can he truly trust with his private fears, his unguarded thoughts, his moments of weakness? Often, it was a high ranking eunuch. Unlike ambitious officials who might use intimate knowledge against him or manipulate his words for their own factional gain, a eunuch, by virtue of his unique position, was often perceived as a less threatening figure. He had no lineage to establish, no personal empire to build outside the palace walls. His survival and prosperity were inextricably linked to the king's well-being and the stability of the royal house. This inherent dependence often fostered a profound, almost familial loyalty that transcended mere servitude. It's like having a therapist who's also your most dedicated, lifelong employee. This deep trust was cultivated over years, sometimes decades, of shared intimacy. A eunuch might have served the king since his childhood, witnessing his growth from a young prince to a reigning monarch. They would have seen him at his most vulnerable, his most triumphant, and his most frustrated. This shared history created an unspoken bond, a unique understanding that few others in the court could ever hope to achieve. The eunuch knew the king's preferences, his habits, his secret anxieties, and his true character beneath the layers of royal protocol. This intimate knowledge made them invaluable, not just as servants, but as psychological sounding boards for a king. The political landscape of Joseon Korea was a constant minefield of factions, rivalries, and potential coups. Ministers rose and fell with alarming regularity, and alliances shifted like the wind. In this turbulent environment, a trusted eunuch offered a rare source of stability and discreet counsel. He could provide unfiltered information from the inner palace, relay insights from the queen or concubines, and offer perspectives untainted by the political ambitions of the outer court. Many historical records show kings relying on their eunuchs for sensitive tasks that required absolute discretion, such as gathering intelligence or managing clandestine affairs. It's like having a highly discreet, perfectly loyal, deep-cover operative embedded within your own palace. The relationship between eunuchs and the queens and royal concubines was equally, if not more, intimate. These women were largely confined to the inner palace, isolated from the world outside, and often caught in fierce rivalries for the king's favor and the security of their own children. A trusted eunuch was their primary link to the outside world, their confidant, and their ally in the treacherous game of palace politics. They would convey messages, discreetly gather information about rivals, and offer emotional support in moments of distress. For a queen, particularly one struggling to conceive a male heir or facing challenges from ambitious concubines, a loyal eunuch was an indispensable asset, a silent partner in navigating her complex existence. Imagine your entire support system revolving around one incredibly discreet individual. One often overlooked aspect of this confidant role was the eunuch's institutional memory. Many served for decades, witnessing multiple reigns and accumulating vast knowledge of palace precedents, past intrigues, and the intricate histories of various noble families. This deep understanding of court dynamics made them invaluable resources for new kings who needed guidance, or for queens seeking to understand the subtle power plays at court. They knew who held grudges, who could be trusted, and how previous crises had been navigated. This experiential wisdom gave them a quiet authority, making them indispensable guides through the treacherous currents of court life. This is the human equivalent of a comprehensive, living database of all court intrigue. Historians still debate the precise nature and depth of these emotional bonds. While official records, largely written by male Confucian scholars who often held a dim view of eunuchs, might downplay their influence, anecdotal evidence and subtle hints in historical texts suggest a much deeper relationship. It's plausible that for many royals, these eunuchs were the closest they came to having true friends or family members within the cold, calculating world of the palace. The lack of their own direct lineage paradoxically made them more trustworthy, as their ambitions were necessarily tied to the royal house, not to creating a competing dynasty. A popular historical anecdote, though its specific details might vary, often involves a eunuch soothing a distraught king, offering comfort, and practical advice during times of crisis. These moments, unrecorded in formal histories but passed down through oral tradition or subtle literary references, highlight the profound emotional labor eunuchs performed. They were not just servants, they were emotional caretakers, confidants, and, in many cases, loyal companions through the loneliness and immense pressure of royal life. The concept of unquestioning loyalty was paramount for eunuchs. Their very existence depended on it. Any hint of disloyalty, any sign of betraying royal trust would lead to swift and often brutal punishment. This constant pressure, combined with the genuine bonds formed over years of service, created a unique dynamic. Their loyalty was often forged in the fires of necessity and reinforced by deep personal connections, making them some of the most reliable figures in a constantly shifting court. It's like being part of an elite secret service where the only mission is the well being of one person, and failure is not an option. This complex relationship between eunuchs and the royal family continued for centuries, a testament to its effectiveness. From serving meals to delivering sensitive political messages, from witnessing private moments to offering discreet counsel, the Joseon eunuchs were the silent, steadfast anchors of the inner palace. Their lives, defined by profound sacrifice, were paradoxically filled with moments of deep trust and profound influence, making them integral to the very fabric of the Joseon dynasty. They were the constant presence, the enduring observers, the unwavering confidants in a world of fleeting power. So, as your thoughts drift and your eyelids grow heavy, consider the silent, unwavering loyalty of the Joseon Palace Eunuchs. They built relationships of deep trust with their kings and queens, becoming more than servants. They were confidants, advisors, and emotional lifelines in a world where true companionship was a rare and precious commodity. It's a testament to the profound human need for connection. Even in the most unusual and demanding of circumstances, let's continue our quiet journey into the fascinating, yet often perilous, world of Joseon Palace eunuchs. If we've seen their loyalty and trust, tonight we'll illuminate the flip side of their unique position, the price of proximity, danger, and downfall. Despite their vital roles and intimate connections, eunuchs often walked a tightrope, their very closeness to power making them prime targets during political upheavals. Imagine yourself as a high ranking eunuch, perhaps serving a king for decades, privy to his deepest thoughts and court secrets. You've accumulated wealth, influence, and perhaps even genuine affection from the royal family. But then, the political winds shift. A new faction rises. A powerful minister gains the king's ear. Or even worse, the king himself dies and a new, untested monarch ascends the throne. Suddenly, your position, once secure, becomes incredibly precarious. Your very intimacy with the previous power structure now marks you as a potential threat, a repository of dangerous knowledge, or a convenient scapegoat. It's like being a senior advisor to a president who loses re-election. Your once powerful position can vanish overnight, and you might even become a target. The greatest danger for eunuchs came during political purges and factional struggles. Joseon court history is rife with brutal power struggles between different scholarly factions and noble clans. When one faction gained ascendancy, it often sought to eliminate rivals and consolidate its power. Eunuchs, by virtue of their close ties to previous regimes or defeated factions, were often among the first to be purged. They were relatively easy targets lacking a strong external family clan to protect them, and often having accumulated visible wealth. They made convenient examples for those seeking to assert new authority. Their wealth could be confiscated, serving as a bonus for the victors. It's a cruel irony the power they gained through proximity became the very thing that made them vulnerable. Accusations against eunuchs during these purges often included charges of corruption, abuse of power, or illicit influence over the monarch. Even if these accusations were exaggerated or fabricated, the eunuchs' ambiguous status made them easy to believe. Their private nature and lack of formal political power meant they struggled to defend themselves in public forums. They were condemned behind closed doors, often with little chance for a fair trial. The punishments were severe, ranging from exile to torture, and ultimately, execution. Imagine being accused of a crime you didn't commit, but having no voice, no platform, and no powerful allies willing to speak up for you. A new king's ascension was also a particularly perilous time. A young, inexperienced monarch might be swayed by ambitious officials to clean house, removing all those closely associated with the previous reign. Eunuchs, who had known the old king intimately, might be seen as remnants of the past, potential sources of disloyalty, or simply as obstacles to the new ruler's full authority. This created a cycle of vulnerability where even long-serving, loyal eunuchs could find their lives abruptly cut short. It's like working for a company for decades, only for a new CEO to come in and decide your loyalty to the old guard is a liability. There's a curious detail that sometimes surfaces in the historical record. Some powerful eunuchs, recognizing the precariousness of their position, would attempt to align themselves with rising factions or cultivate relationships with potential heirs to the throne. This was a dangerous gamble, as picking the wrong side could lead to even swifter ruin. But for some, it was a desperate attempt to ensure their survival and maintain their influence in the face of inevitable change. This highlights their constant, often subtle, political maneuvering, even from within their seemingly subservient roles. Historians still widely debate the true extent of these deliberate political alignments among eunuchs versus simply being caught in the crossfire. Beyond grand political purges, individual eunuchs could also face downfall due to disfavor with the king or queen. A single misstep, an unintentional slight, or even a misunderstanding could lead to loss of royal trust, immediate dismissal from their post, and banishment from the palace. For a eunuch whose entire life revolved around palace service, such banishment was a fate worse than death, leaving them adrift, without purpose, and often without means. It's the ultimate termination, not just of a job, but of an entire way of life and identity. Consider the psychological toll of living under such constant threat. Every whispered word, every subtle gesture, every shift in a royal's mood could signal impending danger. Eunuchs had to be masters of self-preservation, acutely attuned to the delicate balance of power, constantly assessing who was up and who was down. This required immense emotional intelligence, discretion, and a profound understanding of human nature, particularly the often unpredictable nature of those in absolute power. It's like perpetually playing a game of chess where the pieces are human lives, and you're one of the pawns who can be sacrificed at any moment. Despite these dangers, the institution of the eunuch persisted throughout the Joseon dynasty for over 500 years. This longevity speaks to their undeniable usefulness and the fundamental need for their specific roles within the palace. While individual eunuchs might fall, the system itself remained, a testament to the fact that their essential functions, guarding the inner palace, managing royal affairs, and serving as royal confidants, outweighed the risks associated with their potential for corruption or political entanglement. A lesser-known aspect of their vulnerability was the potential for retaliation from the powerful noble families or scholarly factions, whom they had, perhaps inadvertently, offended or exposed. If a eunuch relayed sensitive information about a minister to the king, and that minister later regained favor, the eunuch could find himself targeted for revenge. This meant that eunuchs had to navigate not only the whims of royalty, but also the deep-seated grudges of the powerful elite. It's a very dangerous neighborhood, and everyone has a long memory. So, as you drift deeper into the quiet stillness of your night, remember the precarious lives of the Joseon Palace Eunuchs. They held immense, albeit informal, power. But this power came with a constant shadow of danger. Their proximity to the throne, while granting them unique opportunities, also made them vulnerable to the shifting tides of court intrigue, reminding us that even the most trusted figures in a royal court could, at any moment, face a sudden and tragic downfall. Let's now gently turn our attention back to the intimate lives of Joseon Palace eunuchs. If we've explored their perilous dance with power and downfall, tonight we'll delve into something far more personal and poignant: forbidden desires, a hidden emotional world. Despite their physical sacrifice and societal expectations, these men, like all humans, harbored complex emotions, relationships, and perhaps even unfulfilled desires in a life uniquely set apart. Imagine a man living in a world where the very essence of traditional masculinity, the ability to marry, father children, and lead a household, is physically denied to him. This fundamental sacrifice, the castration that defined their existence, undoubtedly had profound psychological and emotional consequences. While their practical lives were filled with duties and palace intrigue, their inner world must have been a complex tapestry of longing, resignation, and perhaps unconventional forms of love and companionship. It's like living in a grand, gilded cage with all the luxuries, but also with an invisible, aching void. One of the most immediate emotional challenges was navigating the societal perception of their altered state. While indispensable to the palace, eunuchs were often viewed with a mixture of respect and disdain by the wider populace. They were othered, set apart by their physical difference. This external judgment, coupled with their own internal processing of their sacrifice, likely led to complex feelings of identity and self-worth. How do you reconcile your vital role in the kingdom with a profound personal loss that defines you in the eyes of society? Historians still debate the specific psychological impact of castration, particularly when performed in childhood, and how it shaped the emotional landscape of these individuals. Despite the common perception of eunuchs as asexual or detached, historical records and anecdotal evidence suggest that they were fully capable of forming deep emotional bonds. Many eunuchs married, as we touched upon, not for procreation, but for companionship, social respectability, and to help manage their households. These marriages were likely diverse, ranging from pragmatic alliances to relationships of genuine affection and partnership. Imagine finding love and comfort in a union that defies the very definition of traditional marriage in your society. It's a testament to the enduring human need for connection. Their emotional lives were often lived in the shadows, away from the public gaze. While a king might parade his concubines, a eunuch's affections, if they strayed beyond the conventional, would have to remain discreet. The palace, for all its grandiosity, could be a lonely place, and the unique shared experience among eunuchs likely fostered a strong sense of camaraderie and mutual support. They were a band of brothers, united by a common sacrifice, understanding the intricacies of their lives in a way no one else could. This shared experience could be a powerful source of emotional solace and belonging. It's like being part of an exclusive club where membership requires a very specific, lifelong sacrifice. The question of sexual desire among eunuchs is a sensitive and complex one that scholars still actively explore. While they were castrated to prevent procreation, historical accounts from various cultures suggest that some eunuchs might have retained some level of sexual desire or capability, depending on the age and completeness of their castration. This is a topic often shrouded in silence or veiled in innuendo in historical texts. If such desires existed, they would have been forbidden in the most profound sense, navigating a world that denied their physical expression, adding another layer of emotional complexity to their unique existence. Imagine carrying a secret desire that society explicitly forbids within a body that is itself a monument to denial. A lesser known aspect of their emotional world might have been the intense frustration and resentment that simmered beneath the surface. Despite their invaluable service and occasional power, they were ultimately still servants, subject to the whims of the powerful. They witnessed the birth of royal heirs, the very thing denied to them, and the continuation of lineages they could not personally create. This constant proximity to the fruits of what they had lost could breed a quiet bitterness, a silent lament for a life that could never be fully their own. This is a subtle point, rarely documented, but profoundly human. For eunuchs who served the king from his childhood, a particularly strong emotional bond could form. They were witnesses to the king's private growth, his fears, and his triumphs. This could evolve into a deep, almost parental affection for the monarch, a desire to protect and guide him. However, this love was also inherently complicated by their subordinate status. They could care deeply, but they could never be equals. This unique blend of loyalty, affection, and inherent inequality must have created a rich, yet often painful, emotional landscape. It's like loving someone fiercely, knowing you can never truly be on their level. The act of adopting sons, as discussed previously, was not merely a pragmatic decision for lineage, it was also a profound emotional act, an attempt to fulfill the deep human need for parenthood and to build a family. The love and devotion eunuchs showed their adopted sons were genuine, a testament to their capacity for nurturing and connection. These relationships offered a profound source of meaning and personal fulfillment in lives that were otherwise defined by service to others. Imagine the joy of holding your adopted child, knowing you're creating a future that societal norms said you couldn't have. So, as your thoughts drift and your eyelids grow heavy, consider the hidden emotional world of the Joseon Palace Eunuchs. Beyond their duties and their unique status, they were complex individuals who experienced love, loss, joy, and sorrow, finding ways to build connections and forge meaning in lives defined by sacrifice. Their story reminds us that the human heart, with all its desires and complexities, finds ways to bloom even in the most unusual and constrained environments, painting a hidden tapestry of resilience and profound human spirit. Let's continue our gentle journey into the fascinating world of Joseon Palace Eunuchs, the Nasi. If we've peered into their personal emotional landscapes, tonight we'll shift our gaze to their more public, yet equally vital, roles, guardians of tradition, ritual, and ceremony. These eunuchs were not just servants, they were the living embodiments of palace protocol, the silent conductors of the elaborate dance of royal life. Imagine a grand procession within the palace walls, perhaps the king moving from his private residence to the throne hall for an important audience. You, as a senior eunuch, would be there, meticulously ensuring every detail is in place, every step, every gesture. Every utterance within the Joseon court was governed by strict rules of etiquette and profound ritual significance. These weren't just formalities, they were expressions of cosmic order, political authority, and deeply held Confucian values. And who better to enforce and embody these traditions than the eunuchs, who lived their entire lives within the palace and possessed an unparalleled institutional memory? It's like being the ultimate stage manager for the grandest, longest running play in the country, where every prop and every line is critical. Eunuchs were intimately involved in virtually every royal ceremony and ritual, from the mundane daily routines to the most sacred rites. They would meticulously prepare the royal ancestral tablets for worship, ensure the proper offerings were laid out during harvest festivals, and guide the king through the precise movements required for state rituals. Their knowledge of these complex procedures was encyclopedic, passed down through generations of eunuch service. This made them indispensable custodians of tradition, vital for maintaining the spiritual and social harmony of the kingdom. Historians still debate the precise origins of many Joseon court rituals, but the eunuch's role in preserving them is undeniable. Consider, for example, the elaborate royal banquets or celebratory ceremonies. Eunuchs would oversee every aspect of the preparation, from the sourcing of exotic ingredients to the precise arrangement of food on the royal table. They would direct the palace musicians, manage the flow of guests, and ensure that all protocol was strictly observed. Their efficiency and attention to detail were crucial for the smooth execution of these grand events, which were as much about displaying royal power and prestige as they were about celebration. It's like planning a state dinner, but with centuries of strict, unspoken rules about every single detail, and your job is to make sure nothing goes wrong. Their role extended even to the most solemn moments of royal life, such as funerals and mourning rites. When a king or queen passed away, the eunuchs were instrumental in preparing the body, overseeing the elaborate mourning rituals, and managing the funerary procession. They were present at the most vulnerable and sacred moments of the royal family, acting as silent guardians and facilitators of passage. This demonstrated a deep level of trust and intimacy, placing them in a unique position between the living and the spiritual realms of the court. Imagine being the sole witness to a monarch's final moments, responsible for guiding them into the afterlife according to ancient rites. Beyond the grand ceremonies, eunuchs also enforced daily court etiquette. They ensured that all officials, even high ranking ministers, followed the correct protocol when approaching the king. They managed the flow of information and requests, deciding who gained an audience and under what circumstances. This gave them subtle but significant power, as they were the gatekeepers of royal access and the arbiters of proper conduct. A slight misstep in etiquette could mean a loss of royal favor, and the eunuchs were the ones who noted every infraction. It's like being the chief usher and protocol officer at the White House, with absolute authority over who sees the president and how they behave. A peculiar detail often highlighted is the eunuch's role in overseeing the royal bedding arrangements. This wasn't just about making the bed, it was a highly ritualized process, ensuring the king slept in the correct orientation for auspiciousness and that all protocols related to his personal chambers were met. This seemingly mundane task was imbued with deep symbolic meaning, underscoring the eunuch's intimate involvement in every aspect of the king's life, even his sleep. It's a level of personal service that goes beyond a regular valet, entering a realm of almost ritualistic care. The eunuch's unparalleled institutional memory was vital for their role as guardians of tradition. They were the living archives of palace practices, knowing how things should be done because they had witnessed them or had been taught by their predecessors for generations. In a society that highly valued precedent and tradition, this made them irreplaceable. When a new king ascended, or a complex ritual needed to be performed, it was often the elder eunuchs who were consulted for their expertise and memory. They were the human databases of historical protocol. This deep immersion in ritual and ceremony likely instilled in many eunuchs a profound sense of purpose and identity. While denied traditional family roles, their lives were imbued with immense significance through their service to the state and their participation in sacred rites. They were not just fulfilling duties, they were actively preserving the very essence of the Joseon dynasty, contributing to its stability and legitimacy through the precise execution of ancient customs. It's a powerful legacy, built not on bloodline, but on meticulous adherence to tradition. So, as you slowly drift into dreams, reflect on the silent, unwavering dedication of the Joseon Palace Eunuchs. They were more than mere attendants. They were the guardians of tradition, the meticulous orchestrators of ritual, and the living memory of palace protocol. Their lives, though often unseen by the wider world, were central to maintaining the intricate balance and profound dignity of the Joseon royal court. Let's now gently ease into the final chapter of our quiet journey through the extraordinary lives of the Joseon Palace Eunuchs, the Nasi. We've explored their painful sacrifice, their hidden power, their unique families, their loyalties, and their vulnerabilities. Tonight, we'll reflect on their lasting presence, the quiet whispers that remain, and their enduring impact on Joseon history echoes through time. The eunuch's legacy. Imagine a Joseon Korea that lasted for over 5 centuries. Throughout almost its entire span, the Palace Eunuchs were an uninterrupted, indispensable institution. From the dynasty's founding in the late 14th century to its eventual decline and fall in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they were a constant, albeit often unseen, force within the royal court. This incredible longevity is, in itself, a powerful testament to their adaptability, their utility, and their profound impact on the functioning of the state. They weren't just a fleeting historical curiosity, they were integral to the very fabric of Joseon governance and daily life within the palace. Their most undeniable legacy lies in their role as keepers of the inner palace. Without them, the intricate system of royal security and the strict separation of the king's private life from the outer court would have been impossible. They ensured the purity of the royal lineage, a paramount concern in a society obsessed with ancestral succession. They managed the royal household's complex logistics, from feeding hundreds of people daily to maintaining vast treasuries and royal wardrobes. This foundational, practical work was the silent bedrock upon which the king's public rule was built. It's like being the anonymous but absolutely critical infrastructure team that keeps an entire city running, day in and day out, for centuries. For beyond logistics, their legacy is etched in the intimate relationships they forged with monarchs and royal women. These were the confidants, the emotional anchors, the trusted advisors who witnessed unguarded moments and shared burdens that no one else could. While often unrecorded in formal histories due to their humble status, these personal connections profoundly influenced decisions, shaped moods, and provided solace in the lonely world of absolute power. The historical record, despite its biases, occasionally provides glimpses of a king's reliance on a favored eunuch, or a queen's quiet trust in her loyal attendants, hinting at a much deeper human connection than mere master-servant relationships. Historians continue to sift through fragmented records, trying to piece together the full emotional landscape of these unique bonds, the wealth some eunuchs accumulated, and the unique family lines they created through adoption also form a fascinating part of their legacy. They built personal empires, ensuring their own form of continuity and providing opportunities for their adopted sons. These families, while outside the mainstream definition of lineage, contributed to the economic and social fabric of Joseon society, demonstrating an unexpected flexibility within a seemingly rigid class structure. It's a quiet testament to the enduring human drive to leave a mark, to create a family, and to find a place in the world, even when the traditional paths are closed. However, their legacy is also intertwined with the more uncomfortable truths of power and vulnerability. Their story serves as a stark reminder of the price of proximity to absolute power. They were the ultimate insiders, but this also made them targets during political purges and shifts in royal favor. Their very existence highlights the often brutal realities of court politics, where loyalty could be swiftly punished and influence could lead to downfall. It's a cautionary tale, whispered through the ages, about the double-edged sword of power in any era. The social ambiguity of their status is another key part of their legacy. They were both respected for their indispensable service and sometimes disdained for their physical alteration. They occupied a liminal space, neither fully male nor female in the societal sense, yet wielding power and influence that transcended conventional gender roles. This unique position made them a subject of fascination and sometimes fear, leaving a complex, nuanced impression on the Joseon psyche. It's like being a vital, highly specialized piece of machinery that everyone depends on, but also finds a little unsettling. In modern Korean society, the figure of the eunuch continues to evoke a mixture of historical curiosity and often a degree of pity. While no longer an institution, their presence in historical dramas, literature, and scholarly research ensures that their unique lives are not forgotten. They stand as a powerful symbol of the Joseon dynasty's intricate social engineering, its rigid hierarchies, and its often harsh realities. They are a window into a past where personal sacrifice was demanded for societal function, and human ingenuity found ways to navigate even the most profound limitations. The physical remnants of their service, the very structures of the inner palace they guarded, the royal rituals they maintained, are also part of their enduring legacy. Though the eunuchs themselves are long gone, their dedication to protocol and the meticulous management of royal affairs shaped the very physical and ceremonial environment of the Joseon court that we can still glimpse today in preserved palaces. They were the unsung architects of daily royal life. Ultimately, the Joseon Palace Eunuchs leave behind a legacy that is disturbing in its origins, yet profound in its implications. Their lives were a testament to sacrifice, resilience, and the complex interplay of power, human connection, and societal norms. They remind us that history is often stranger and far more nuanced than our simple narratives allow. They were the silent shadows, the unseen pillars, the living paradoxes of a dynasty that endured for centuries, leaving echoes that still whisper through time, if you listen closely enough. Now, as the stories of the Joseon Palace eunuchs fade into the quiet hum of your room, let your thoughts settle. Allow the intricate details of their lives, their sacrifices, and their quiet influence to drift gently from your mind. Feel the softness of your pillow, the gentle rhythm of your breath. There's no rush, nowhere to be but here, in this peaceful moment. Just relax and let sleep softly claim you.